Okay, we are wasting no time opening up this package. We're going to get the bands taken off, and as soon as we can get the top open, I will bring the camera back and we'll see what it looks like for the first time. Okay, after a little bit of work with a hammer and crowbar, we got all the fasteners removed. And there we go. Here is the first look at the bike. A lot of packing on it, which is good to see. As you can see, obviously the tires will have to be installed, which we were well aware of. Actually, yeah, the backs are loose as well. And it feels like they are low on air as well, so I have to get the air pump out. The racks are actually installed, which I thought we were going to have to install them. The last one I saw of these, it was one that was in the US. I believe it was actually cheaper than this one, but with the exchange rate it probably was, unfortunately. Us here in Canada, we pay a lot more for just about everything. But anyways, the racks were not installed on his. This bike is comparable to a 125cc child adult bike sort of thing, similar to the 125cc that we used to have. There should be videos of that on my channel somewhere. But anyways, looks like the handlebars need to be installed right here, and all 4 tires. So we're gonna get all this packing material moved out of the way so nothing blows away, and we'll come back when we can see a little bit more of the bike. Okay, all but the back piece of the crate has been removed. We are down to the actual bike itself. All 4 tires are off to the side. We are ready to probably put the handlebars in place first, just so we don't drop them, pinch any wires, stuff like that. Don't know if that's the way they want you to put this together. To be honest, I haven't even looked for instructions yet. So the back axle is bolted to the crate, as you can see. That'll be relatively simple to take off. This has a brushless DC motor, and it's 48 volts. So it should be more than powerful enough. Oh, there's some more stuff sitting under here as well, I've just noticed. So we're going to get into it, and we'll come back when we got more. Okay, something to think about when buying one of these Chinese four-wheelers. If you don't get it pre-assembled, there are no instructions. Basically, you're flying by the seat of your pants. They do provide just about enough stuff to put together. They do provide extras, but they don't tell you what goes where, what to do first, so on and so on. So for us, we're putting together the handlebars first, just to get them up out of the way so nothing gets scratched or damaged. Now we're going to move on to the wheels, but the front end is not put together. The tie rods are disconnected. So they do provide the tie rod nuts. They don't provide you anything to tighten them down with, but usually on those you don't want them overly tight, you want them just snug. So, and then you put the little cotter key through. Also, the primary bag of bolts only had 3 bolts in it for the handlebars, and they were all shorter. So either they went here, went there, or they go somewhere else. I don't know yet, but I found 4 longer ones that I ended up using for now. If I gotta pull them back out, I will. But again, don't tighten anything up too tight until you got everything right where you want it. It is just threaded steel, and it's Chinesium steel. It leaves Canada and the US as really high quality steel, but it comes back from China as really cheap steel. So anyways, we're gonna move on to the back wheels right now. At least we'll get the wheels put on, and we're gonna figure them out. Then we'll move on to the front end. I'll probably have to get a jack or something to put underneath the front end just to make it go a little bit easier, but we'll come across that as needed. So with the back, they do have the back bolted down on each side. They don't really have hubs. We're gonna take a look at the wheel in a second and see how they actually have to go. I don't know if these, it looks like these nuts may have to come off. Yep, because it's splined. So they are splined on the back, which it's okay, I guess. I wish it had rear hubs like the front, and like the gas Chinese four-wheelers do, but you get what you get. So splines will be fine. If the Honda tractors have splined axles, which they do, splined axles on this should be perfectly fine as well. Okay, I made a minor mistake in the last part. Here is the wheels. This is actually just a spacer, so you can bring it out from the brakes. This machine actually has hydraulic rear brakes, cable front brakes. The hub for the back ones are already mounted into the tire for some reason. Don't really know why they did that. But yeah, probably so they could make it lower when they shipped it. Without the hubs, it is much lower in the actual box. But all you really got to do on this is, like I said, no instructions. But if you're mechanically inclined, you should be able to figure this out. Remove the nut on the end, like so. Don't lose it. But they may give you a few extras. Like I said, there are extra parts here. But actually, no, the stuff is on the front suspension. So they actually do give you extra rear nuts. You take the tire, try not to bang up your splines, and Bob's your uncle. Just like that. What I might do on here, before I tighten everything down, put some grease in there. So if these ever have to come apart in the future, they will actually come apart. I don't have any anti-seize, but grease will work just as well. Also, if you look, there's a cable going from the rear end up to the top frame. That's most likely putting tension on it. There is tension on this, and the spring here is compressed. So I'm guessing that is just keeping it lower in the packaging as well. So this machine will actually sit higher than it currently is. And I just noticed it does actually have a VIN tag, which I'm not going to show on video. So we'll get this temporarily put on, and we'll move over to the front end. Okay, we just got the little bike on all fours. The back tires are done. Nothing's tightened up just yet. I figured move over to the front. I want to make it a roller. Again, the like I said before, the front suspension is unhooked, but just use common sense. Don't over tighten anything. Make sure you do put the little cotter pin in here as well. So it's just basically just like a little ball joint. Take it off, raise it up. See if I can do it one-handed or not. Nope, 1 second. There we go. So on here, reverse it, washer, lock washer, and nut. So, and make sure when you're tightening this down that you do have it lined up so you can get the cotter pin in there. Relatively easy. Your choice on how you put the cotter pin in there. Some people do a little twisty twist and loop-de-loop. Really, that's completely your decision on that. But hand tight for now. So you can here's the shocks. Just go over everything. Make sure everything is tight. They actually do give you greasable fittings on some of the suspension components. The tie rods are not greasable. The spindles are not greasable. So some stuff is, some stuff is not. Just personally, I would check everything over, make sure everything is greased. I will be doing that before I put the tires on as well anyways. So next step is to tighten up the steering components. Remember, not too tight because you do want some movement in there, but not too loose that it's going to vibrate and fall apart on you. These bikes are rated to go reasonably quick, and they're really not made for kids, but kids can ride them. They do have a potentiometer on them, so you can slow it right down or run it at the top open. So stay tuned for the next little part. Okay, when I was doing the arm right here, the tie rod, I failed to mention you have to bolt the shock in at the bottom as well. I also had to raise my jack up a bit higher. I wasn't getting quite enough clearance. So make sure it's up in the air enough. And don't forget your bottom bolt in your shock. Then you have 3 grease points. 2 on the lower control arm, and it appears to just have 1 on the upper control arm, left and right. So just make sure you grease them. Your bushings will be happy. Okay, as you can see, the front right tire is back off. I did forget to do something. Also, with my grease gun, I was unable to do it. This upper control arm, I cannot get to the grease point back here without removing the shock. I had to remove the shock on the left side, so I'm going to remove the shock on the right side here and get to it. There's something to look out for if you have a grease gun with a really long neck. If you have one of a right angled fitting, you'd probably be able to get it in there, but if you have a really long neck like mine, you won't be able to get in there. Also, on this particular model, it has these little beauty rings that go on behind the tires. Don't forget to put them on. It makes them look that much nicer and makes them match the rear wheels as well. So we are just about done on here. It's got to pull the shock back, pull this shock off, grease it, put the shock back in, tire back on. I need to do the pins in the back wheel still, the safety pins, and then we're ready to connect up some wires and try it out. Okay, it's now on all four wheels. I have not yet taken off that rear cable that's holding in the suspension. That will be very last before I connect up the wiring, and probably before I put the rack on. I'm getting ready now to tighten up the rear two nuts that hold the hubs in place. So it's getting there. Everything in the front end is now greased. I don't think there's any grease points in the back. I will check that as I'm tightening up those bolts as well. But like I mentioned before, this actually has hydraulic rear brakes, cable front brakes, which is kind of cool. We have not yet connected up anything. So the key's in it, but there is no power as of yet. Also, I have not found the charging port as of yet. I'm thinking it's probably on the battery, because I don't think they'd use the bike's wiring to help charge the battery. I think it would put a bit of a strain on the system. So I'll be finding the charging port, turning it on, and it's just about done. It's actually, with the tires on it, it's actually bigger than the 125 we had, which is kind of cool. Much more ground clearance, and the suspension on this is actually better than the 125. So, okay, I just connected the one and only connection that had to be connected underneath. See, the back tires are done, and we got power. Brakes are on, so we should have a rear tail light, and yes, we do. It had a few different connections down here. You see, these two here are still loose, but there's nothing to connect them to. So I don't know what they necessarily do. The rear rack is still not on it yet, but I'm just going to do a quick try on this. That will be in the next video. I know this wasn't a full in-depth on how to put these together. This is just a few things to look out for when putting one of these bikes together, and a few extra things you should do and make sure you do. So hopefully this does help somebody out in the future if you buy one of these bikes and you want to put them together. So I'll talk to them later. Please keep riding like always, and please subscribe and comment.